All right, welcome back everyone. So the iPhone 16's been out since September 2024, and now that we're deep into 2025, I figured it's the perfect time to finally talk about it. I've been testing it over the last few months, not as my main phone, but specifically to understand how it really holds up after some time. Apple introduced quite a few updates with this one. The new camera system that shoots spatial video, iOS 18 packed with Apple Intelligence features, and those redesigned buttons. Yep, the action button is still here. But now there's also a dedicated camera button. So the question is, does this feel like just another minor upgrade? Or is Apple actually pushing things forward with the iPhone 16? I've got a lot of thoughts, so let's break it down and see what's really going on with this phone. Alright, let's kick things off with the design, because even though the iPhone 16 doesn't look radically different at first glance, there are some meaningful updates here. The overall shape sticks with the flat-edge design Apple's been using for a while now. If you've held an iPhone 15, this is going to feel very familiar in the hand. Same general size, same aluminum frame, same color-infused glass back. It's sleek, solid, and comfortable to hold. But the first thing you'll probably notice is the new camera layout. Instead of the diagonal arrangement we've seen since the iPhone 13, the iPhone 16 brings back a vertically stacked dual camera setup, something we haven't really seen since the iPhone X. According to sources like The Verge, this change was made primarily to support Apple's new 3D spatial video feature, which is one of the big selling points for this year's model. And while it's a functional update, I actually think it improves the phone's aesthetics a bit. The lenses look more symmetrical and balanced on the back, kind of a subtle throwback vibe. As for the colors, Apple actually stepped things up this year. You've got ultramarine blue, teal, pink, starlight, basically white, and midnight, black. Tech Radar called it the best iPhone color lineup in years, and I totally agree. I've been using the teal version for this review, and let me tell you, it pops. It's got this understated richness to it that really catches the light. Now, buttons. We've got two new ones this time. On the left, the action button has officially replaced the old mute switch, just like on the iPhone 15 Pro models. It's fully customizable, and during testing, I set it to toggle the flashlight, which I found super handy. Then there's the new camera control button on the right side. Sounds exciting, right? And it kind of is, but also kind of not. It's definitely a cool idea. A dedicated physical shutter for snapping photos or starting videos. But it's small, like really small. A few reviewers joked that you might miss it entirely if you're not paying attention. I personally found it a bit finicky at first, but once I customized it for different tasks, it did come in handy. Now, the display. We're working with a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED panel, and it's gorgeous, bright, colorful, and sharp. It can hit up to 2,000 nits outdoors, which is seriously bright. I had no issues using it in direct sunlight. Even during a golden hour photo session, when the glare was intense, I could still see everything perfectly. But, and this is a big one, there's still no 120Hz refresh rate. Apple's keeping that Pro Motion goodness exclusive to the Pro models. So yes, it's still 60Hz here. If you're coming from a high refresh display, especially Android or an iPhone Pro, you'll probably notice it. That silky smooth scrolling just isn't here. There's also no always-on display, which again, stays locked behind the Pro wall. So yeah, great display, awesome colors, but still missing a couple premium touches. Performance-wise, the iPhone 16 is running on Apple's brand new A18 chip paired with 8 GB of RAM. And the best part? Even the base model gets the A18, not some older chip like in past years. That alone makes a big difference. In everyday use, this phone is a speed demon. Apps open almost instantly, there's zero lag, and even when I had a dozen things going on, video editing, gaming, switching between apps, it handled everything with ease. That extra RAM really helps with multitasking too, making the phone feel ready for the long haul. Then there's iOS 18, which comes preloaded. You now get more ways to customize your phone, like changing app icon colors and locking apps with Face ID. And let's not forget the early rollout of Apple Intelligence features like a smarter Siri and image generation tools. Though some of these AI tricks feel a bit unfinished or coming soon, the potential is definitely exciting. Cameras. This is usually a big one for iPhones, right? On the iPhone 16, we're looking at a dual camera setup on the back, a 48-megapixel main sensor, and a new 12-megapixel ultra-wide. No telephoto lens here. This base model doesn't include one, but the cameras you do get are seriously impressive. That 48-megapixel sensor usually shoots 24-megapixel images by default, which balances detail and file size. But you can shoot full 48-megapixel photos if you want all that extra detail. These cameras are basically hand-me-downs from the Pro models, so the results are top-notch. During my tests, daylight photos were crisp, with vibrant colors and great dynamic range, exactly the kind of classic iPhone look people love. Low-light performance with night mode is also strong. TechRadar mentioned that the main sensor is improved from last year's iPhone, and I'd agree. My shots had noticeably more clarity and detail, especially in shadowy conditions. Portrait mode is still one of the best out there, and the updated ultra-wide lens now has autofocus and can shoot macro. I got super close to flowers and small objects during my review, and it nailed the focus. And then there's spatial video. Thanks to the new vertical camera layout, the iPhone 16 can capture 3D video for viewing on the Vision Pro. Recording feels like shooting regular video, but unless you own Apple's headset, there's not much you can do with it yet. Still, it's fun to experiment with. The 12-megapixel front-facing camera? Still excellent. Selfies come out great. And when it comes to video, this phone continues Apple's legacy. 4K at 60 frames per second. Dolby Vision HDR. Fantastic stabilization. Only real letdown? No optical zoom. You get 2 times digital zoom, but it's just not the same. The Verge said it best. There's no substitute for real optical zoom. I found myself physically moving closer for distant shots. As for that new camera control button, I honestly barely used it. On-screen controls still work just fine. But overall, the iPhone 16's camera system is excellent for everyday use. Battery life. Always a big deal, right? The iPhone 16 comes with a slightly larger battery than last year's model, and Apple claims up to 22 hours of video playback. In my real-world testing, I found it to be excellent for a phone this size. During the review period, my daily use included a mix of web browsing, messaging, music streaming, and snapping a few photos, and I consistently ended the day with around 20 to 30% battery left. That's solid. Now, on heavier days, like when I was out doing camera and video testing, especially chasing that sunset shot, the battery did dip lower, but it still carried me well into the night without needing a top-up. For most users, that's a win. Charging has seen a bit of an upgrade too. Apple says you can get 50% in 30 minutes using a 20-watt charger, and that matched my results pretty closely. You can use a 35-watt charger, but honestly, I didn't see a major speed boost. And yep, still no charger in the box, which, let's be honest, still stings a little in 2025. From my experience, I never needed a surprise midday charge on regular days. So if you're wondering whether the iPhone 16 holds up battery-wise, it does. Absolutely, let's be honest. No phone is perfect, and the iPhone 16 is no exception. From a reviewer's standpoint, the biggest downsides come from what's missing. First off, the screen. It's still 60 Hz. No 120 Hz Pro Motion, and no always-on display. At this price point, that's tough to justify. Most Android flagships and even Apple's own Pro models have those features, so it feels like Apple's lagging a bit here. Then there's the camera situation. You only get a 2x digital zoom, no telephoto lens on the base model. And honestly, during zoom tests for this review, the lack of optical zoom really stood out. For close-up and everyday shots, it's fine. But for anything far away, you're stuck either cropping or moving closer. The new camera control button? It sounds nice, but it's tiny and a bit fiddly. Even while reviewing the phone, I often found myself just using the on-screen shutter because it was easier. Also, USB-C is here, yay, but it's still USB 2.0 speeds. So if you're transferring big video files or large photos, which I did a lot during this review, it's noticeably slower than other phones with USB 3.0 or Thunderbolt. That part feels like a missed opportunity. Now let's talk price. The iPhone 16 starts at $799 for the 128GB model. In Europe, that's around 1,119 euros, and in the UK, it's about 899 pounds. It's definitely not cheap, especially when you compare it to what some Android phones offer at the same price. Higher refresh rate screens, faster charging, even more versatile camera setups. So, is it a good value? Well, if you're deep in Apple's ecosystem and appreciate things like long-term updates and iOS polish, maybe. But if you're spec-focused or just want the most bang for your buck, Android still wins in that department. So, who should actually buy the iPhone 16? From my experience reviewing it, I think it's a great upgrade for people coming from older phones. Say an iPhone XR, iPhone 11, or anything earlier. Or maybe you're switching from a 3 to a 4-year-old Android device. In that case, the iPhone 16 is going to feel like a massive step up. Snappier performance, better photos, better battery life, and a more refined user experience overall. But if you're on an iPhone 13 or 14, it's a tougher sell. Sure, there are improvements, but they're incremental. And if you've got an iPhone 15, you can probably skip this one unless you're really drawn to the spatial video features or some of the new AI capabilities. Bottom line, if your phone is showing its age and you want something fresh, smooth, and reliable, the iPhone 16 is a strong, safe choice. But if you're already rocking something recent, you might be better off holding out for what's next, or checking out the Pro line for those premium extras. Let me know in the comments, are you considering the iPhone 16, or are you sticking with what you've got? Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.